Sorry about no video yesterday. I worked real late, and I was too tired when I get home, and I didn't want to phone one in. You know, I like to be at my best when I do these. And you know what? It worked out for the best that I didn't record anything yesterday because, wow, has the situation gotten so much worse, and do we have so much more information now. First of all, I want to just... I don't like to toot my own horn too much, but 10 days ago when we had the Buffalo shooting, and I said, hey, this Buffalo shooter, he glows in the dark, real bright. I know I'm not the only one who said that, but you are going out on somewhat of a limb, especially on YouTube, to say something like that, to talk about the potential for federal involvement. And I will get to the latest on the Uvalde, or however you say it, the Texas school shooting. But I want to go back to Buffalo because we got news today, and I don't want to get swept under the rug, that a so-called former federal agent had 30 minutes advance notice of the Buffalo shooting, where it was going to take place, who was doing it, what his motivations were, because this former federal agent just happened to be a part of some white supremacist online chat room. We don't have any details. I don't know if this guy was on poll or something like that, or I don't even know what. I mean, Stormfront's gone, 8chan is gone, so I don't even know where these guys talk anymore. But this guy who we're told is a former federal agent. Now, there's no such thing as a former Fed. Once a Fed, you're always a Fed. You know, William F. Buckley Jr. was a CIA asset till the day he died. Same is true for all these other folks. Unless there's somebody who really goes hard, you know, against the establishment, like a Ray McGovern type. Ray McGovern, I'm pretty confident, is no longer doing the bidding of the federal government. But the rest of these guys, they're all Feds. A Fed is a Fed for life. And so we know now that the Buffalo shooter was groomed by at least one Fed, if not, when we get more details, it'll probably be multiple Feds. And that this Fed had 30 minutes of foreknowledge. He was told by the shooter, hey, guys, just to let you know, I'm going to go slay some of the darkies at this supermarket, and it's going to be real cool. So here's my manifesto. Here's what I'm doing. Here's where I'll be. You know, as much of a credible threat as you could get. He could have immediately contacted his other Fed buddies or even the local police and said, hey, in 30 minutes, he didn't necessarily know the exact time, but he could say, hey, there's going to be a shooting, or there's a threat called into this supermarket. So be on the lookout for this guy. There could have been undercover cops waiting for him, or they could have just evacuated the supermarket and his plot would have been spoiled for that day, and they could have, maybe that was enough to arrest him. But no, you know, somehow that didn't happen. I guess just because of incompetence or something like that, right? You know. But what did I say when the Buffalo shooting happened? These guys, so many of them are groomed by the FBI. There's a big chance that, you know, the number one culprit, or the number one suspect, has to be the Feds because they groom so many of these guys so that they can catch them in sting operations. But a lot of them get through. They end up going live before the Feds swoop in and catch them. And I would say there's a suspicious number of them are able to actually pull off their plan without being stopped by the Feds. And this is one of those cases. It's very suspicious why they had 30 minutes notice and they still couldn't catch him. To me, if I know that the Feds had 30 minutes notice that this guy was going to commit this mass shooting in Buffalo, how else am I supposed to interpret that other than they allowed it to happen? They chose to let him do it. They could have stopped him. They chose not to. And maybe some of you, maybe if you're a normie who stumbled upon this video, you'll say, that's crazy. I'm going to report you to the Ministry of Truth right now. How dare you say that? That's crazy. Police would never allow a mass shooter to carry out an act of mass murder. No police officer, whether they be federal, state, or local, they would never do that. Oh, wait. Remember that whole Uvalde shooting thing that happened a couple days ago? Yeah, the Texas State Police now, the Texas Department of Public Safety, I think it's called, came out and said, yeah, a decision was made on the ground by a commander who was on site while the shooting was ongoing, to not intervene, to stay out, to make sure that nobody could go in there, to let it happen. That was his choice. This is admitted by the Texas Department of Public Safety. And we're told that the commander on the ground that he's referring to was, I guess, somebody from the school district's police department, which is something you're seeing more often now, school districts having their own police department. Well, the school district police, I guess, were the ones who made the decision. Okay, according to this guy, nobody's allowed in. Don't go in yourself. Don't try and rescue any kids. Let them die. We're also getting videos now. We had these videos yesterday, and we're getting more context today, of parents who tried to go in to rescue their own kids and said, hey, there's a shooting ongoing. I'm going to go find my kid. And they were tackled and handcuffed. Even a woman, a mother who wanted to save her child, who I believe ended up dying. She was tackled and handcuffed by the U.S. Marshals. What were U.S. Marshals doing here? I mean, I've never even seen a U.S. Marshal. I mean, I thought this was weird to begin with when I heard that it was the Border Patrol who shot this guy. I thought, well, what the heck? Why would the Border Patrol be stopping a school shooting? Wouldn't the county sheriff have gotten there a lot sooner than the Border Patrol? It looks to me, and I don't know this for certain yet, but the way it looks is that all of these other police agencies, and who knows, maybe the Border Patrol was in on it, the Border Patrol was under the orders of this commander who ordered everybody to stand down, and eventually when he lifted that stand down order and said, okay, we're going to go in and get him, the Border Patrol just happened to be one of the guys. The guy from the Border Patrol might just happen to be the guy who shot him. So I guess I shouldn't speculate anymore, because that very well might be the case. But what is not in dispute is that at 12:09, I believe they said, there were 19 police officers in the school, inside the building, in the school. And they did not break down that door, that classroom door, until 12:50. So that gunman was locked in that classroom with an hour, for an hour, basically. Actually, longer than that, I think, because he was there at like 11:30, around there. So he was in there for a long time, but the police, at 12:09, there were 19 of them. You think 19 cops couldn't have taken down one guy with a gun? Are the cops that incompetent? I mean, is it like Doom, where, he could just kind of stand in front of the door and the bad guy, or in this case, the cops, instead of demons, although what's the difference really? Will walk right through the door and he'll just be able to take out each one, one at a time with his super mad fast skills, because he's the Doom guy and that's just how it is. No, they could have taken him down. And in fact, they did, eventually. They just waited until all the kids were dead. And in fact, they were so determined to let those kids die that when their poor parents, showed up to try and rescue their kids and said, I'm going to go in and get my kid. I don't care if I die, because I'm a parent and it's my job to protect my child or children. So I'm going to go in and get them. The police said, no dice. They're going to die and you're going to like it and you're going to watch. Why? Because we're the cops. We're in charge. You people are a bunch of cattle, and and there's too many of you. So we're culling the young. It's exactly what this was. It was a coordinated thinning of the rice shoots. This was not a lone gunman goes crazy and murders a bunch of people. This is a crazy young man who wanted to kill people, who was, I guess, taken advantage of by the police, who wanted these kids to die. And so he went in, what they basically did was unleashed him like the Tasmanian devil into that school. They were chasing him down the road. He just happens to wreck near the school. When he gets out of his truck, they don't stop him. They let him run into the school, and then they don't pursue him. They just lock him in there and don't let anybody else interfere, and they let him go crazy, killing teachers and students to his heart's content. And once they felt like, okay, the damage is done, he's outlived his usefulness, he's barricaded in there, we're going to go in and get him, and then we're going to declare ourselves the hero, and we will have accomplished our goal of letting all these kids die, of killing them. Now, you could say, okay, well, it's a little hyperbolic. Why the cops want to go out of their way to murder all these kids? I don't know. I don't need to know their motive. I'm looking at their actions. That's the actions that they took. They took intentional actions which brought about the deaths of more children than otherwise would have died had they done what their alleged job is, to quote-unquote protect and serve. Now, as we all know, the Supreme Court ruled that the police do not have a responsibility to protect innocent civilians from harm. They have no such duty. Their only duty is to collect parking tickets, to sexually abuse women who they have arrested, to claim to smell marijuana as a pretense to search your car and then steal your valuables in the name of civil asset forfeiture. And then finally, to serve as bouncers for mass shooters. Now, that last one is new to me. I didn't know that that was a part of their duty. But apparently it is, because these cops who are doing their job, we're hearing from their superior, oh my gosh, they couldn't have charged in there. I mean, some of them might have been injured or killed. You can't expect a cop to go in and try and stop somebody. And of course, they can't let the parents go in and try and fight them themselves, because, well, then they'd just be letting the parents get into harm's way, and they can't do that. The police had to protect the parents from being good parents, from saving their children. So what's the official story as of now? Why is it that these cops were so intent on letting these kids die? Is it just that they're just plain evil? Well, that's not what we're being told yet. At this point, the official narrative is that some of these guys, I think the Border Patrol guys, because it's hard to tell them apart, because all these guys were decked out in their full military gear. Or not all of them, but a lot of them. Like the U.S. Marshals, I guess, had rifles and helmets and armor, which you think would be sufficient to take on a guy with a rifle, and nothing else. I mean, he didn't have his own body armor. They were better equipped than he was, but I guess they were too scared to go fight, the 18-year-old incel who had never fired a gun before. So they had to wait for their tactical shield to be delivered. I mean, I'm not laughing because I think tactical shields are useless in this sort of an application. I mean, yes, I understand. Probably be better to have a shield if you're gonna, try and be clearing rooms. But I think there are plenty of veterans of the terror wars who cleared a lot of rooms in their day without tactical shields. And they were taking on men who were armed similarly to this shooter. He was just a guy with no body armor, with a rifle. And that's what you would find, over in the Middle East, if they're going through all these cities like Fallujah and they're kicking down they're breaking into every house, looking for people, killing anyone they see. They have to break down the door in every single room, and they have to clear rooms through old city blocks. And did this for years and years and years in Iraq and Afghanistan and all these other countries that you can't even pronounce. But come home to America, oh my gosh, it's too much to ask. They have to wait for the riot shield. Do you know how much time that takes? What do you mad at us for waiting to go in? It's pretty remarkable, isn't it? How American law enforcement or soldiers, or just that kind of class of people, because a lot of them tend to be similar kind of guys. So a lot of there's crossover. How they're so much more willing to put their life on the line to go over and fight some guys in a sandbox that has really no relation to America, and how much less they're willing to put their life on the line to save innocent school children who are being slaughtered. I mean, there's just no other way to look at this. We have now 2 shootings in a row that, pretty much confirmed at this point, are of the government's making. These shootings could not have killed all these people without the cooperation of various levels of government, throughout the United States. In the case of Buffalo, it was at least the federal government. that helped enable it, if not instigated it. We don't have evidence of it yet. Although, in my opinion, quite likely that they instigated it to begin with and egged this kid on and pushed him to become, the man he was or is. I don't know if he's deceased. And then we have this Texas shooting, which was 100% aided and abetted by police at every level of government. Although, actually, I don't know if there were state police there, but at the very least, county and federal, they let it happen. They wanted it to happen. And remember that next time you see a police officer, that they're brothers in blue in Texas, and in the federal government in the case of Buffalo, and in plenty of other situations. I mean, heck, we're talking about Texas. This is the same state where Waco is. I don't remember what state Ruby Ridge is in, but you see somebody with a badge, you see somebody in that kind of a uniform, it's pretty safe to assume they don't value human life. It's best to assume that they want you dead, and that you should only relax around them if you're proven wrong. And I hope you are wrong. I mean, I don't want there to be these guys walking around out the street who are so bloodthirsty that they're willing to let innocent children be killed. For what? For what purpose? I honestly don't know. But, you can say the same thing about Waco. Why did they kill all those kids in Waco? The individual officers, I mean, we can parse and debate about the motivations of the federal government itself. Yeah. But I just mean the individual cops. What did they gain? How do they sleep at night? What helps them sleep at night? I don't think they gain anything from murdering children, unless it's just their sick fantasy. And so I think this is really this just puts the final nail in the coffin of the people pushing for gun control. It's like, oh, okay, we need more gun control so that we become even more reliant on these murderous monsters. Nobody needs an assault weapon. Hashtag ACAB, right? Am I right? All right. I mean, just past the anniversary of the death of George Floyd. It would be hilarious if it weren't so sad. I mean, really, this is one of the worst things I've ever had to discuss on this channel. Although I think I've discussed a lot of situations where more people have been killed. I used to talk a lot about Yemen. I mean, that was always depressing. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.